Welcome to the English learning community. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode. Today, we're diving into something truly special. A story that's not just going to improve your listening and writing skills, but also inspire you to take your English to the next level. So, grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's get started. Have you ever been in a situation where someone was speaking and you just couldn't catch everything they said? Or maybe you were trying to write something? An email? A message? Or even a story, but the words just wouldn't come to you? Trust me, we've all been there. But here's the good news. Today's episode is designed to help you overcome those challenges. We're going to explore real-life stories and examples that show you exactly how English is used in everyday conversations. These stories are packed with practical vocabulary, natural sentence structures, and tips that will boost your confidence and fluency. By the end of this episode, you'll not only understand English better, but also feel more comfortable using it in your own life. But before we dive into the story, I want to ask you a few questions. These are meant to get you thinking and set the stage for what's coming next. As you listen to today's episode, keep these questions in mind. 1. Have you ever felt nervous about speaking English because you were afraid of making mistakes? 2. What's one situation where you struggled to understand someone speaking English? 3. When you write in English, do you sometimes feel like you're missing the right words? These questions are more than just food for thought. They're the foundation of what we're about to explore. The story you're going to hear today is all about overcoming fear, embracing mistakes, and finding the courage to keep going. It's about real people, real challenges, and real growth. And trust me, by the end of it, you'll feel inspired to take on your own English learning journey with a fresh perspective. Are you ready? Let's jump into today's story and discover how mistakes can actually be magic in disguise. Let's go. From struggle to success, how English opened doors to my dream career, the fear of speaking. Once upon a time, in a small village in India, there lived a young boy named Rahul. Rahul was a bright student, but he had one big problem. He was terrified of speaking English. Every time he tried to speak, his heart would race, his hands would shake, and his mind would go blank. He felt like everyone was judging him. Rahul's fear started in school. One day, his English teacher asked him to read a paragraph aloud. Rahul stood up, but when he opened his mouth, the words wouldn't come out. His classmates laughed, and the teacher scolded him. From that day, Rahul believed he was bad at English. He avoided speaking it at all costs. But deep down, Rahul had a dream. He wanted to work in a big city, maybe even abroad. He knew English was the key to his dream, but his fear held him back. Every time he thought about speaking English, he felt a heavy weight in his chest. It was like a wall between him and his future. A turning point. One day, Rahul's village hosted a cultural festival. People from different cities and even foreigners came to visit. Rahul's friends were excited to talk to the visitors, but Rahul stayed quiet. He watched as his friend Priya confidently spoke to a foreigner in English. She made mistakes, but she didn't care. She laughed, and the foreigner laughed with her. They had a great conversation. Rahul felt a mix of emotions: jealousy, admiration, and regret. He thought, why can't I do that? Why am I so afraid? That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Priya's confidence and his own fear. The next morning, Rahul made a decision. He told himself, I will not let fear control me anymore. I will learn to speak English, no matter how hard it is. But he didn't know where to start. He felt lost and unsure. First step. Rahul remembered an old man in the village, Mr. Kapoor, who used to be an English teacher. He decided to visit him. Mr. Kapoor was a kind man with a gentle smile. When Rahul shared his fear, Mr. Kapoor listened carefully. Then he said, Rahul, fear is like a shadow. It looks big and scary, but it has no power over you. The only way to overcome it is to face it. Mr. Kapoor gave Rahul a simple task. He said, every day, stand in front of a mirror and speak one sentence in English. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just speak. Rahul was nervous, but he agreed to try. That evening, Rahul stood in front of the mirror. His heart was pounding. He took a deep breath and said, "My name is Rahul." His voice was shaky, but he did it. The next day, he said, "I like to play cricket." Slowly, he started feeling a little more confident. Challenge. After a week, Mr. Kapoor gave Rahul a new challenge. He said, "Now, speak one sentence in English to a real person every day. It can be anyone, your friend, your family, or even a stranger." Rahul felt scared, but he knew he had to try. The first person he chose was his mother. He said, "Good morning, Mom." His mother smiled and replied, "Good morning, beta." That small moment made Rahul feel proud. He realized that people didn't judge him as much as he thought. Life lesson. Rahul learned that fear is just a feeling. It doesn't define who you are. The more you face it, the smaller it becomes. He also learned that mistakes are okay. No one speaks perfectly, and everyone makes mistakes. What matters is that you try. Great. Let's continue with the second part of Rahul's journey. This part will focus on his struggles, small victories, and the lessons he learns along the way. I'll keep the language simple and include pauses and emphasis for learners. Small steps, big changes. Rahul continued his daily practice. Every morning he would stand in front of the mirror and say one sentence in English. At first, his sentences were short and simple. "I like tea." "The sky is blue." But as days passed, he started adding more words. "I like to drink tea in the morning." "The sky is blue and beautiful." He also started speaking to people. At first, it was just his family. He would say things like, "Good night, Dad," or "This food is tasty, Mom." His family was supportive. They smiled and encouraged him. This made Rahul feel a little more confident. But speaking to strangers was still scary. One day, Rahul decided to visit the local market. He saw a shopkeeper who often spoke English with the tourists. Rahul took a deep breath and walked up to him. His heart was beating fast, but he said, "Hello, how are you?" The shopkeeper smiled and replied, "I'm good, thank you. How are you?" Rahul felt a rush of happiness. He had done it. He had spoken to a stranger in English. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. First big mistake. A few days later, Rahul decided to challenge himself further. He saw a foreigner taking pictures near the village temple. He wanted to ask, "Can I help you?" But when he approached the foreigner, his mind went blank. Instead of saying, "Can I help you?" he said, "Can you help me?" The foreigner looked confused and said, "Do you need help?" Rahul realized his mistake. His face turned red and he wanted to run away. But then he remembered Mr. Kapoor's words. Mistakes are okay. He took a deep breath and said, "Sorry, can I help you?" The foreigner smiled and said, "Oh, I see. No, thank you. I'm just taking pictures." Rahul felt embarrassed, but he also felt proud. He had made a mistake, but he didn't give up. He corrected himself and kept going. The power of practice. Rahul started practicing more. He would listen to English songs and try to sing along. He watched English movies with subtitles and repeated the dialogues. He even started writing a small diary in English. Every night he would write about his day. "Today, I spoke to the shopkeeper. I made a mistake, but I learned." He also joined a small English-speaking group in his village. The group met every Sunday. At first, Rahul was too shy to speak. He would just listen to others. But one day, the group leader asked him, "Rahul, what do you think?" Rahul's heart raced, but he said, "I think practice is important. If we practice every day, we can improve." The group clapped and cheered for him. Rahul felt a warm glow inside. He realized that speaking English wasn't just about words, it was about connecting with people. A big opportunity. One day, Rahul's school announced an English speech competition. The winner would get a trophy and a chance to visit a big city. Rahul wanted to participate, but he was scared. He thought, "What if I forget my words? What if people laugh at me?" He shared his fear with Mr. Kapoor. Mr. Kapoor said, "Rahul, this is your chance to prove to yourself that you can do it. Don't think about winning or losing. Just focus on sharing your thoughts." Rahul decided to take the risk. He worked hard on his speech. He wrote about his journey, how he was afraid of English, how he practiced every day, and how he learned to face his fear. He practiced in front of the mirror, in front of his family, and even in front of his dog. The day of the competition. On the day of the competition, Rahul was nervous. His hands were sweaty and his legs felt like jelly. When his turn came, he walked up to the stage. He looked at the audience and saw his family, his friends, and Mr. Kapoor smiling at him. He took a deep breath and started speaking. At first, his voice was shaky, but as he continued, he started feeling more confident. He shared his story, his fear, his mistakes, and his small victories. When he finished, the audience clapped loudly. Rahul felt a sense of pride he had never felt before. Life lesson: Rahul didn't win the competition, but he didn't care. He had already won the biggest battle, the battle against his fear. He learned that confidence doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from trying, failing, and trying again. Absolutely! Let's move on to the third part of Rahul's journey. This part will focus on how Rahul's confidence grows, the challenges he faces outside his comfort zone, and the life lessons he learns along the way. I'll keep the language simple and include pauses and emphasis for learners. Part 3. Stepping out of the comfort zone. After the speech competition, Rahul felt a new sense of confidence. He realized that fear is just a feeling, and it can't stop him unless he lets it. But he also knew that his journey wasn't over. He wanted to keep improving his English and face bigger challenges. One day, Rahul heard about a job fair in the nearby city. Many companies were looking for young people who could speak English. Rahul was excited, but also nervous. He had never been to a city before, and he had never spoken English in a professional setting. But he decided to go. He thought, if I don't try, I'll never know what I'm capable of. Journey to the city. Rahul took a bus to the city. The journey was long, and his mind was full of doubts. He kept thinking, what if I can't answer their questions? What if they laugh at me? But he reminded himself of Mr. Kapoor's words. Fear is like a shadow. It has no power over you. When Rahul reached the city, he was amazed. The tall buildings, the busy streets, and the noise were overwhelming. He felt like a small fish in a big ocean. But he didn't let his fear stop him. He took a deep breath and walked into the job fair. The first interview. Rahul approached a company that was hiring customer service representatives. The interviewer was a friendly woman named Ms. Sharma. She smiled and said, "Tell me about yourself." Rahul's heart started racing. He had practiced this question many times, but now his mind went blank. He took a deep breath and said, "My name is Rahul. I am from a small village. I am learning English. I want to work hard and learn more." Ms. Sharma nodded and asked, "Why do you want this job?" Rahul thought for a moment and said, "I want to help people. I also want to improve my English. I know I have a lot to learn, but I am ready to work hard." Ms. Sharma smiled and said, "That's a good attitude. Keep practicing and you'll do well." She gave Rahul her card and told him to apply again in a few months. The rejection. Rahul didn't get the job, but he wasn't disappointed. He felt proud of himself for trying. He realized that rejection is not failure. It's just a step on the path to success. He also learned that honesty and effort are more important than perfection. The unexpected opportunity. As Rahul was leaving the job fair, he saw a group of foreigners taking pictures. He remembered his earlier mistake and smiled. This time, he felt more confident. He walked up to them and said, "Hello, do you need help?" One of the foreigners, a man named John, smiled and said, "Yes, actually. Can you tell us where we can find a good restaurant?" Rahul thought for a moment and said, "There is a restaurant near the bus station. The food is very tasty." John laughed and said, "Thank you. You're very kind." He asked Rahul about his village and his life. Rahul answered as best as he could. He made a few mistakes, but John didn't mind. They had a great conversation. Before leaving, John said, "You have a good heart, Rahul. Keep practicing your English. You're doing great." He gave Rahul his email address and said, "If you ever need help, feel free to contact me." A life lesson. Rahul learned that opportunities can come from unexpected places. He also learned that kindness and confidence can open doors. Even though he wasn't perfect, people appreciated his effort and his willingness to help. Back in the village. When Rahul returned to his village, he felt like a different person. He had faced his fears, stepped out of his comfort zone, and learned so much. He shared his experience with Mr. Kapoor, who smiled and said, "Rahul, you're growing every day. Remember, the journey is more important than the destination." Rahul started helping other villagers with their English. He taught them simple sentences and encouraged them to practice. He became a role model in his village, not because he was perfect, but because he never gave up. After his experience at the job fair, Rahul felt like he could take on the world. His confidence was growing, but he knew there was still so much to learn. One day, his friend Priya told him about an English storytelling workshop happening in the city. The workshop was for people who wanted to improve their English through fun activities like storytelling, role-playing, and games. Rahul was intrigued but nervous. He had never done anything like this before. Priya encouraged him, saying, "Come on, Rahul, it'll be fun. And who knows, you might even make new friends." Rahul thought about it and decided to give it a try. He thought, if I can speak to foreigners and interviewers, I can do this too. The storytelling workshop. The workshop was held in a cozy hall filled with colorful posters and smiling people. The facilitator, Ms. Ananya, was a lively woman with a big smile. She started the session by saying, "Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to have fun with English. Don't worry about making mistakes, just enjoy the process." The first activity was 2 truths and a lie. Each person had to say 3 sentences about themselves, 2 true and 1 false. The others had to guess which one was the lie. Rahul was nervous but excited. When his turn came, he said, 1. I have a pet goat named Chotu. 2. I once climbed a mango tree and got stuck. 3. I can speak 5 languages fluently. The group laughed and guessed that the third sentence was the lie. Rahul smiled and said, "You're right. I'm still learning English." Everyone clapped, and Rahul felt a warm sense of belonging. The role-playing challenge. The next activity was role-playing. Ms. Ananya paired Rahul with a girl named Neha. They had to act out a scene where Rahul was a tourist asking for directions, and Neha was a local guide. Rahul was nervous at first, but Neha was very friendly. She said, "Don't worry, Rahul. Just pretend we're in a movie." Rahul took a deep breath and started, "Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to the railway station?" Neha replied with a smile, "Of course. Go straight, then turn left at the big clock tower. You'll see the station on your right." Rahul pretended to look confused and said, "Big clock tower? Is it very tall?" Neha laughed and said, "Yes, very tall. You can't miss it." The group clapped and cheered for their performance. Rahul felt like a star. He realized that learning English could be fun when you let go of fear and just enjoy the moment. A funny mistake. During a break, Rahul decided to practice his English with a boy named Rohan. He wanted to say, "I like your shirt," but instead he said, "I like your sheep." Rohan looked confused and said, "Sheep? I'm not a farmer." Rahul realized his mistake and burst out laughing. He said, "Sorry, I mean shirt, not sheep." Rohan laughed too and said, "No problem, Rahul. Your English is better than my Hindi." This funny moment made Rahul realize that mistakes can be hilarious and that people don't judge you as much as you think. It's all about having a good attitude. Final challenge. The last activity of the workshop was storytelling. Each participant had to tell a short story in English. Rahul decided to tell the story of his journey, how he was afraid of English, how he practiced every day, and how he learned to face his fear. When his turn came, Rahul stood up and took a deep breath. He started. Once there was a boy who was afraid of speaking English. Every time he tried, his heart would race and his hands would shake. As he spoke, the room became quiet. Everyone listened intently. When he finished, there was a moment of silence, followed by loud applause. Ms. Ananya said, "Rahul, that was amazing. You're not just telling a story, you're inspiring others." The life lesson. Rahul left the workshop feeling like a new person. He had made new friends, laughed at his mistakes, and even inspired others. He learned that English is not just a language, it's a tool for connection, fun, and growth. He also learned that the more you enjoy the process, the faster you learn. Back to the village. When Rahul returned to his village, he shared his experiences with everyone. He even started a small English fun club where villagers could practice English through games, stories, and role-playing. The club became so popular that even Mr. Kapoor joined in. One day, Rahul's little sister asked him, "Paya, aren't you afraid of making mistakes anymore?" Rahul smiled and said, "No, because mistakes are just stepping stones to success. And besides, they make the best stories." If you enjoyed today's story and found it helpful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We've got so many more inspiring stories, practical tips, and fun lessons coming your way to help you master English and boost your confidence. And hey, if you're feeling extra motivated, leave a comment below and tell us, what's one mistake you've made while learning English? And what did you learn from it? We'd love to hear your stories and cheer you on. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, every step you take is progress. And we're here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and believe in yourself.